The shrill cry cut through the quiet of the small apartment, echoing off the faded walls. The baby thrashed in the crib, tiny fists hitting the soft blanket, and the cleaning lady's heart pounded. She hurried across the room, her apron still smeared with the remnants of dust and soap, scooping the child into her arms. But the baby twisted away, wailing louder, eyes full of terror, as if she were a stranger. "It's okay, baby, it's me," she whispered, rocking him gently. He screamed again, refusing to be comforted. She sat on the edge of the bed, holding him close, her chest tight with worry. No matter what she did, he rejected everyone, family, neighbors, even the few friends who tried to visit. The baby's name was Elijah, and at 10 months old, he had already made it painfully clear he trusted almost no one. The cleaning lady, Mariah, had long learned to accept that he was different, but the sharp pang of helplessness never dulled, not even for a second. She knew the neighbors whispered about her, a young black woman, working tirelessly for others, struggling to make ends meet, with a baby that refused comfort from anyone. Mariah took a deep breath, rocking Elijah until he calmed enough to slump against her shoulder. His tiny body relaxed for the first time in minutes. She kissed his forehead softly and whispered, "Don't worry, baby, I'll figure it out, we'll figure it out." She had said it countless times before, but the weight of it felt heavier today. Outside, the city buzzed with life. Luxury cars rolled past the worn buildings, the hum of a life so distant from hers seeping through the cracked windows. That's when the bell rang, a chime that Mariah had learned to recognize. It wasn't unusual for clients to come unannounced, but she rarely expected someone like this. She wiped her hands on her apron, smoothing her hair before opening the door. A tall man stood there, impeccably dressed in a tailored suit, his white skin contrasting sharply against the bright sunlight behind him. He smiled politely. "Good morning," he said, his voice calm and deliberate. "I'm looking for Mariah Johnson." "That's me," she replied cautiously, holding Elijah closer. "Can I help you?" "I'm Mr. Benjamin Carter," he said, glancing down at the baby in her arms. "I work in real estate. I heard this apartment might be available for inspection." His eyes flicked back to her, and then, curiously, he looked at Elijah. Elijah stiffened, his little body tense. Mariah instinctively pulled him closer, preparing for a scream, but then, astonishingly, the baby's cries stopped. His wide eyes locked onto the man, and instead of recoiling, he reached out, tiny fingers grasping the cuff of Benjamin's sleeve. Mariah froze. "What?" she whispered. Benjamin crouched slightly, careful not to scare him. "Hey there, little guy," he said gently. Elijah giggled, a sound Mariah hadn't heard in weeks, and clung to him as if he had always known him. The room felt impossibly small, and Mariah's jaw went slack. She tried to pull Elijah back. He doesn't usually do this. He doesn't trust strangers." Benjamin smiled, soft and unassuming, not letting go. "I'm not a stranger," he murmured. "I'm just someone new." Elijah buried his face against Benjamin's chest, content and calm. Mariah's throat tightened. She wanted to be angry, to feel protective, but her heart twisted with something she couldn't name. A strange warmth spread across her chest, and she realized that for the first time, she had seen Elijah relaxed around someone besides herself. The tension in the room was palpable. Benjamin looked up at Mariah, eyes gentle but questioning. "Does he always?" "Never," she admitted, voice barely a whisper. "Never trusts anyone, not even me sometimes." For a moment, they just stood there, the baby nestled between them, a bridge forming where there should have been distance. Later, after Benjamin had left, Mariah sat on the worn couch, Elijah asleep in her arms. She couldn't stop thinking about what had just happened. The baby who rejected the world had chosen someone, a stranger, a white man from a life she could never touch. Her thoughts tumbled in confusion and fear. What did this mean? Why him? And why did a part of her feel relieved that he was safe in those arms, even if only for a moment? Days passed, and Benjamin's visits became regular. He always had a reason, checking properties, offering advice, small gestures that slowly blurred the line between professional courtesy and personal connection. Each time, Elijah ran to him, his laughter spilling freely, leaving Mariah watching, half envious, half grateful. One afternoon, Mariah found herself standing by the window, watching Benjamin hand Elijah a small, colorful toy he had brought. "He doesn't do this with anyone," she said, voice trembling. He never laughs like that. Benjamin smiled faintly. I don't know why, Mariah, but I feel honored that he's comfortable with me. You've done all the hard work raising him. I just get to share a moment. Her chest tightened again. She wanted to be angry, to tell him he couldn't possibly understand what it felt like to watch someone trust another person so easily. But she didn't. Instead, she nodded silently, gripping the edge of the counter as her eyes followed Elijah's tiny hands, reaching out for Benjamin, a bond forming that Mariah could neither deny nor fully understand. That night, Mariah sat on the floor of the tiny apartment, rocking Elijah to sleep. She whispered to him as always, but this time there was a new fear in her voice. I don't know what's happening, baby. I don't know if I'm losing you. He cooed softly in response, oblivious to her turmoil, and she held him close, letting her tears fall freely. She had no answers, only a question that haunted her. How could her child, her blood, choose someone else? The next morning, Mariah woke before the sun, Elijah already fussing in his crib. She groaned, rubbing her eyes, and lifted him carefully. As she carried him to the kitchen, she thought about yesterday, the way he had reached for Benjamin, the way he had laughed without a care. She shook her head. This can't happen again, she muttered under her breath, but deep down she knew it already had. Later, Benjamin arrived exactly on time, as if he had read her thoughts. Mariah opened the door, Elijah squirming in her arms. Benjamin smiled, holding out his hands gently. Morning, little man. Elijah froze, then, almost immediately, crawled into Benjamin's lap. Mariah blinked. She hadn't expected it to be this quick again. Her chest tightened as she watched the scene unfold, a strange mix of jealousy and relief knotting her stomach. Mariah, Benjamin said softly, looking up at her. He really likes me, doesn't he? She swallowed hard. I don't know, he never does this, ever, not with anyone. Her voice cracked despite her effort to stay composed. Not even with me sometimes. Benjamin nodded, carefully placing Elijah on the floor so he could crawl freely around them. I know you're his mother, I know this is strange, but maybe he senses something safe, something different. Mariah crossed her arms, biting her lip. Safe, different, you don't understand. I've been with him since the day he was born. I feed him, comfort him, stay up with him at night. And now he chooses you. Her voice rose, frustration and fear spilling over. Benjamin's expression softened. I'm not trying to replace you, Mariah. You are his world. I just think he's finding something with me that helps him open up. Elijah giggled suddenly, crawling back into Benjamin's lap. See, Benjamin said quietly, almost to himself, he trusts me. Mariah looked away, gripping the edge of the table. She wanted to scream, to cry, to run, but she stayed silent. The baby's laughter cut through her heart like a blade. She had never felt this powerless. She had always known she couldn't protect him from the world, but never imagined feeling like she couldn't even protect his heart. Days turned into weeks. Benjamin's visits became routine. Sometimes he would bring small toys or books, sometimes just his presence. Elijah's attachment to him grew visibly stronger with each encounter. Mariah felt both gratitude and fear. She hated to admit that Benjamin's presence made her own life easier, yet she hated even more how easily the baby seemed to accept him. One afternoon, as the golden light of sunset spilled through the windows, Mariah sat on the couch while Benjamin read a story aloud to Elijah. The baby's tiny hands clutched Benjamin's sleeve, eyes wide and sparkling. Mariah's lips trembled as she watched. I don't understand why this is happening, she whispered to herself. Benjamin looked up. Mariah, he's not rejecting you. He's just opening his heart. He needs both of us. Mariah shook her head, tears spilling freely. But it feels like he's leaving me. Benjamin's gaze softened. Careful not to overstep. You're his mother. You'll always be his home. I can't replace that. The honesty in his voice calmed her slightly, but it didn't erase the ache in her chest. She nodded silently, forcing a tight-lipped smile. Elijah, oblivious to the tension between the adults, squealed with delight as Benjamin tickled him gently. Mariah found herself smiling despite everything. She could see that he was genuinely happy, and a small part of her, guilty and reluctant, was thankful. That night after Benjamin had left, Mariah sat alone on the floor, rocking Elijah to sleep. "Why him?" she whispered, voice trembling. "Why not me?" Elijah cooed softly in response, and she pressed her cheek against his tiny head. "I'll never stop loving you," she murmured, "but it hurts seeing you choose someone else." The days that followed were a whirlwind of emotions. Elijah laughed more freely than ever, clung to Benjamin with total trust, yet still recognized Mariah's care and presence. Every new attachment felt like a victory for Benjamin, but a quiet battle for Mariah's heart. She began noticing subtle changes in her own life, Benjamin's words of reassurance, the way he gently supported her when she felt exhausted, the moments when he seemed genuinely invested in both of their lives. One afternoon, as Benjamin left after another visit, he lingered at the door. "Mariah," he said softly, "I know this isn't easy, but I hope you know I'm not here to take anything from you. I just want to help." Mariah's eyes filled with tears. "I know," she whispered. It's hard to watch him connect so easily with someone else." Benjamin nodded, a faint smile on his lips. "You're an amazing mother. He's lucky to have you." Mariah closed the door slowly, leaning against it, and let herself breathe. She knew he was right, but the feeling of helplessness lingered. She had always been in control of her child's world, and now it was shifting in ways she couldn't predict. The tension continued to mount. Elijah's laughter for Benjamin became more frequent, and even strangers began to notice the bond between them. Mariah found herself torn between pride and fear, watching the baby she had nurtured form attachments beyond her. One evening, after a particularly trying day at work, Mariah returned home to find Benjamin sitting in the living room with Elijah asleep on his lap. The baby stirred but didn't wake fully. Benjamin's presence was calm and steady. Mariah felt her chest tighten again, a wave of conflicting emotions washing over her. "I hope you don't mind me staying a little while," Benjamin said quietly. He was having trouble settling, and I wanted to help." Mariah hesitated, then nodded. "It's okay." She sat down opposite them, watching Benjamin cradle Elijah, his small fingers gripping Benjamin's hand. For the first time, she allowed herself to see the situation differently. Perhaps this wasn't about losing Elijah. Perhaps it was about giving him the chance to feel safe in more than one person's arms. Later that night, as Mariah tucked Elijah into bed, she whispered softly, "I guess maybe it's okay for you to love him too." The baby cooed in response, eyes fluttering closed. Mariah kissed his forehead gently, a mix of relief and lingering sorrow in her heart. A week later, the air in Mariah's apartment was heavy with tension she could barely name. Elijah had started crawling toward Benjamin even before she opened the door. Each time Benjamin arrived, the baby's laughter filled the room, his tiny hands reaching for the man as if no one else existed. Mariah tried to hide the storm inside her, but it grew with each passing moment. That afternoon, as Benjamin lifted Elijah onto his lap, Mariah cleared her throat. "Can we talk?" she asked, keeping her voice steady. Benjamin looked up, eyebrows raised. "Of course." She paced the small living room, Elijah watching curiously from Benjamin's arms. I can't explain it, but I feel like I'm losing him. Every time he laughs with you, every time he reaches for you first, it's like I'm fading from his world." Benjamin's jaw tightened slightly, his hand resting gently on Elijah's tiny back. "Mariah, you're his mother. Nothing will change that, but he's a child. Children form bonds. They need to trust people outside of their mothers to grow. I'm not trying to replace you." "I know that," she snapped, her voice rising. "But it hurts. You don't understand what it's like to watch him choose someone else over you, over me. He's my baby. He's supposed to need me first." Benjamin set Elijah down carefully on the carpet. The baby immediately crawled toward Mariah, reaching for her. She hesitated, then picked him up, holding him tight. His tiny arms wrapped around her neck, and for a brief moment she felt relief. But then she noticed his eyes scanning the room, looking back at Benjamin, a small smile flickering on his lips even as he clung to her. "I can see it," she said softly, a tremor in her voice. He wants both of us, doesn't he?" Benjamin nodded, looking away, his own emotions flickering across his face. "Yes, and that's okay. He's learning to feel safe with more than one person. That doesn't make you less, it makes him stronger." Mariah sank onto the couch, holding Elijah close, tears spilling freely. I thought he'd always be mine alone, that I could protect him from everything." "You can," Benjamin said gently, kneeling in front of them. "But love doesn't always look the way we expect. Sometimes it's bigger than us. Sometimes it includes other people." Her chest tightened again, but this time there was a flicker of understanding. She hugged Elijah tighter, letting Benjamin stay nearby. "I guess I need to learn that." Days later, rumors began to swirl in their small apartment building. Neighbors whispered about the millionaire who visited the cleaning lady's home every day, watching Elijah and playing with him. Some were envious, others suspicious. Mariah heard fragments. Is he really helping, or is he trying to take the baby away? She tried to ignore it, but the murmurs gnawed at her. One evening, while Benjamin held Elijah in the living room, a neighbor appeared at the door. "I just wanted to make sure everything's all right," the woman said, her eyes flicking toward Benjamin. Mariah felt her protective instincts flare. "Everything's fine," she said, a little sharply. "Thank you." Benjamin smiled gently, raising his hands in a calming gesture. "I promise, I'm not here to cause trouble. I just care for the baby." The neighbor nodded hesitantly and left, leaving a residue of tension behind. Mariah closed the door slowly, her mind racing. She loved Benjamin's help, but she hated the way the world seemed ready to judge her and her choices. That night she sat on the floor, Elijah asleep in her arms. She whispered softly, "I don't know how to handle this, baby. Everyone thinks they know what's best for you, but it's just us here, you and me." Elijah stirred in his sleep, his tiny hand brushing her cheek. She pressed her forehead to his, feeling the warmth and softness of his skin. "I'll do my best, baby, I promise." The next day, Benjamin arrived earlier than usual, holding a small box. "I brought something for Elijah," he said quietly. Mariah's stomach twisted. Another toy. Benjamin shook his head. "Something different, something he can use to feel safe when I'm not here." She watched curiously as he opened the box, revealing a soft blanket with a small embroidered lion. "It's for him," Benjamin explained, "to remind him that he's brave, that he can feel secure even when I'm gone." Elijah's eyes lit up immediately. He reached for the blanket, hugging it tightly. Mariah felt her heart tighten again. She had to admit, it was thoughtful, it was kind, but every small gesture that deepened his bond with Benjamin was another reminder of the fear she couldn't shake, that her baby's heart could belong to someone else too. "Mariah," Benjamin said gently, noticing her conflicted expression, "I don't want you to feel replaced. I'm not here to take anything from you. I just want to help him feel safe." Her lips trembled. "I know, it's hard." He nodded as if he understood completely, and perhaps he did. Because for the first time, Mariah felt a flicker of trust in him, not just for Elijah, but for herself. Maybe she didn't have to fight this alone. But just as relief settled in, the unthinkable happened. One afternoon, Mariah returned home to find Benjamin in the apartment, Elijah sitting in his lap, laughing more freely than she had ever seen. And this time, the laughter wasn't just innocent joy, it was the unmistakable sign of attachment. Mariah froze, her heart pounding. He's really choosing you," she whispered, a mix of fear, pain, and reluctant admiration in her voice. Benjamin looked up, expression calm but serious. "He's not choosing me over you, Mariah. He's learning to trust, to feel safe, and that's because of you, not me." Her eyes filled with tears, and she sank into the couch, watching her baby. "I never thought I'd feel so powerless," she admitted. "You're not powerless," Benjamin said softly. "You're his mother, you always will be, but he needs more than one safe place in the world, and I want to be one of those places for him. You've done all the work, I just get to be part of it." Mariah swallowed hard, nodding slowly. I want to understand that, I really do." Benjamin smiled faintly, holding Elijah closer. "We'll figure it out together, you, me, and him, all of us." She exhaled slowly, a fragile mix of hope and fear washing over her. Maybe it was possible for love to expand instead of shrink. Maybe Elijah could feel safe with both of them, and maybe, in the process, she could learn to let go a little. Days passed, and the tension in Mariah's heart only grew. Every time Benjamin came over, Elijah's laughter and excitement surged like a tidal wave she couldn't stop. Mariah tried to focus on her chores, on her own life, but the pull of watching her baby attach so completely to someone else gnawed at her. She loved him with every fiber of her being, yet she couldn't deny that Benjamin had become a constant presence she both needed and feared. One rainy afternoon, the storm outside mirrored the storm inside her. She wiped her hands on her apron and opened the door to Benjamin, who was standing there with his umbrella dripping water onto the floor. In his arms was a small stack of books and a wrapped blanket. Elijah immediately crawled toward him, tiny arms outstretched. Mariah bit her lip, feeling the familiar pang of fear and jealousy. He's so happy with you," she whispered, more to herself than to Benjamin. Benjamin smiled softly, crouching to the baby's level. "He's happy because he feels safe, that's all, and that safety comes from you too, Mariah, don't forget that." She frowned, her voice trembling. "It feels like I'm fatting Benjamin, like he doesn't need me as much anymore." Benjamin shook his head, gently placing the blanket around Elijah's shoulders. "He'll always need you. This isn't a competition, it's trust. He's learning to trust the world, and he's lucky to have you getting him through it." Elijah laughed, clutching the blanket and Benjamin's hand. He looked back at Mariah with bright eyes, as if trying to reassure her. Her chest tightened, and she felt tears prick the corners of her eyes. She knelt down beside him, smoothing his hair. I didn't expect this," she said softly. Benjamin looked at her with an intensity that made her stomach twist. "I know, and I understand why it's hard. I wouldn't be human if I didn't realize the weight of what's happening here. But I promise, I'm not here to replace you. I just want to be someone he can rely on, someone he can trust besides you." Mariah nodded slowly, a bitter smile forming. "I guess maybe that's not so bad." She hesitated, then whispered, "It still hurts." Benjamin reached out, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "It should. Love is supposed to hurt sometimes, but that pain isn't a sign you're losing him, it's a sign you care deeply." They sat in silence for a moment, the storm outside pattering against the windows. Elijah nestled between them, his tiny fingers gripping both of their hands. Mariah felt a strange warmth rise in her chest. Perhaps she could learn to share this love instead of feeling like it was slipping through her fingers. The next day, whispers from neighbors escalated into open questions. "Why is the millionaire always here? Is he trying to take the baby?" one woman asked, eyes wide with suspicion. Mariah felt her jaw clench, protective instinct flaring. She wanted to defend Benjamin, to explain, but she didn't. Instead, she watched as he calmly smiled and assured them that his only intention was helping Elijah feel safe. That evening, Mariah found herself packing the apartment, Elijah asleep in his crib. Benjamin sat on the couch, watching her silently. "You've been quiet today," he said softly. "I'm thinking," she admitted, "thinking about what's happening, about him, about us, about how my baby can laugh for you and still be mine. I don't know how to feel." Benjamin leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "It's okay not to know. The important thing is that you're here, you're involved, and you care. That's what he needs more than anything." Mariah sank onto the couch beside him, feeling the exhaustion of emotion she hadn't realized she'd been carrying. I don't want him to forget me. I don't want him to think I'm not enough." Benjamin's gaze softened, gentle and unwavering. "He'll never forget you, Mariah. You are his world. He's lucky to have you, and so am I, for letting me be part of it." Tears welled in her eyes as she nodded, swallowing hard. She didn't know if she could fully accept Benjamin yet, but she knew she wanted to try, for Elijah's sake, and perhaps for her own. Then one evening, the moment of reckoning came. Mariah returned from a long day of work to find Elijah laughing uncontrollably in Benjamin's arms. She froze at the doorway, stomach twisting with an unfamiliar combination of fear, awe, and helplessness. He's choosing you," she whispered, voice breaking. Benjamin looked up, calm and serious. "He's not choosing me over you, he's learning to trust, and that's because of you, don't forget that." Mariah closed the door slowly, leaning against it. Her heart raced. She wanted to run, to retreat, to reclaim her baby completely, but she didn't. Instead, she let herself watch, letting Benjamin cradle Elijah, the baby's laughter filling the room like music. That night after Benjamin left, Mariah sat beside Elijah's crib, brushing his tiny hand across her cheek. "I guess maybe it's okay for him to love you too," she whispered, tears falling silently. "I guess maybe it's okay for me to trust you too." Her chest tightened as she kissed his forehead. She felt a shift inside herself, a fragile acceptance forming even as a storm of emotions still lingered. The baby had chosen a bond beyond her, and she had chosen to let it exist. That was love, she realized, in its most complicated and beautiful form. And for the first time in weeks, Mariah smiled genuinely. Elijah's laughter from the previous day echoed in her mind, a reminder that trust and love could expand, that her child could have more than one safe place in the world, and that she didn't have to lose herself in the process. The story wasn't over. There were challenges ahead. She would have to navigate jealousy, fear, and societal judgment. But for now, in this quiet moment, she allowed herself to hope. Perhaps the three of them, Mariah, Elijah, and Benjamin, could form a bond that was stronger, deeper, and more enduring than anything she had imagined. And as she settled in to sleep, Elijah curled against her chest. She whispered softly, "We're going to be okay, all three of us." A few days later, Mariah returned home after a long shift at a nearby office. Her feet were aching, her shoulders tight with exhaustion, yet she felt a familiar tug in her chest, the pull of knowing Elijah was waiting for her, and yet not entirely hers. She opened the door slowly, and her breath caught. Benjamin was there again, kneeling on the floor, Elijah perched on his lap, squealing with delight. Mariah froze in the doorway, her heart twisted. Every laugh, every giggle, every tiny hand reaching for Benjamin was a reminder that her child had formed a bond outside her control. For a moment, she considered turning away, retreating into the safety of her own heart. But she stepped inside, gripping the edge of the doorframe. "Hey, Mariah," Benjamin said gently, looking up. "He's been waiting for you." Elijah looked up and grinned, his eyes sparkling as if to say, "See, she's here too." The baby reached for her, and she felt the warmth of his small fingers curling around her hand. A shiver ran through her. She wanted to pull him close and never let go, but the sight of him laughing freely in Benjamin's arms stopped her. I don't know how to feel anymore," she admitted, voice trembling. "I love him so much, but it hurts seeing him so happy with someone else." Benjamin nodded, his gaze soft but steady. "I know, Mariah, and it should hurt sometimes. That's love. But your love isn't diminished because he trusts me too. In fact, it makes him stronger." Mariah sank to the floor, sitting cross-legged beside them, watching as Elijah crawled back and forth between them, touching them both, laughing, exploring, discovering. She realized that this was not a competition. This was growth. This was trust. Yet outside the apartment, the neighborhood whispers were growing louder. By evening, Mariah had already overheard snippets of conversations. "That man is always here. Is he trying to buy the baby's affection? How much influence does he have over her now?" The murmurs made her blood boil, yet a part of her wanted to explain, to defend Benjamin and her own choices. But the exhaustion and emotional strain kept her silent. That night, Benjamin lingered, helping Mariah put Elijah to bed. The baby was restless, tugging at her shirt, small cries escaping. Benjamin knelt beside the crib, speaking softly. "It's okay, little one. You're safe. You're loved. You have so many people who care about you." Elijah's eyes brightened, and he crawled into Benjamin's lap. Mariah's chest tightened painfully. She wanted to scold, to reclaim him, yet she couldn't bring herself to do it. His laughter and comfort radiated through the room, a mixture of innocence and raw emotion she couldn't ignore. Mariah's voice shook as she spoke. I don't know how to share him without losing him." Benjamin's eyes met hers, unwavering. "You won't lose him. You never could. He's your son. He's always going to need you. But right now, he's learning something else. He's learning that he can love more than one person, that he can trust more than one heart. And that's a lesson he needs you to teach too, even if it hurts." Her hands trembled as she nodded, the weight of the truth settling over her. This wasn't easy, it would never be easy, but perhaps it was necessary. Over the next few days, Mariah began noticing subtle changes in herself. She watched Elijah run into Benjamin's arms without jealousy, noticing how Benjamin would look at him with genuine affection, his eyes soft, patient, unwavering. Slowly, she began to see the man not as a threat, but as a partner in care. One afternoon, while Benjamin was reading aloud to Elijah, the baby suddenly crawled to Mariah, tugging at her pants. She picked him up, holding him close. He pressed his tiny face against hers, giggling. For a moment, Mariah felt a wave of relief. She whispered, "See, you still need me." Elijah laughed, looking back at Benjamin, then returned to her arms, tugging playfully. Mariah realized then that he wasn't choosing one over the other. He was learning to love both, fully and without hesitation. That evening, Benjamin stayed later than usual. He helped Mariah prepare dinner while Elijah played quietly nearby. She glanced at him, a flicker of gratitude and understanding passing through her. "Thank you," she murmured. Benjamin smiled. "You're doing all the hard work. I just get to be here too, and I'm honored to be part of his life." The words made her chest tighten, and she swallowed hard. She wanted to argue, to push him away, but instead she nodded. Slowly she realized she didn't need to fight him. She needed to accept him, for Elijah's sake and maybe for her own. As night fell, the apartment grew quiet. Elijah lay between them, half asleep, tiny fingers holding both of their hands. Mariah watched them, her heart swelling with complex emotions, love, fear, acceptance, and gratitude all mingling together. She whispered softly, "I think maybe we can do this. Maybe we can be okay." Benjamin looked down at her, a small smile playing on his lips. "We will be okay together." And for the first time, Mariah truly believed it. The following morning, sunlight streamed through the worn curtains, painting the apartment in warm hues. Mariah sat on the floor, Elijah between her legs, gently brushing his tiny fingers across her cheek. Benjamin stood nearby, a soft smile on his face, watching the little scene unfold. "Elijah," Mariah whispered, "do you know how much I love you?" The baby giggled, reaching for Benjamin at the same time. Mariah's chest tightened, but she swallowed hard. Instead of anger, she felt a quiet sense of peace. He didn't have to choose. He could love both fully and freely, and maybe that was the greatest lesson of all. Benjamin stepped closer, kneeling beside them. "You know, Mariah," he said softly, "he's learning something amazing from you. He's learning that love can grow, that trust can expand, that he doesn't have to be afraid of caring for more than one person." Mariah looked at him, tears brimming in her eyes. I just never thought it would feel like this, that it would hurt so much and feel so good at the same time." Benjamin chuckled softly, his hand brushing her hair back. "That's love," he said simply. "It's messy, complicated, and beautiful all at once." Elijah squealed in delight, crawling between them and then leaning into Benjamin's chest. Mariah wrapped her arms around both of them, feeling the warmth of the moment, the fullness of trust and love that had taken weeks to grow. "I think," she murmured, pressing her forehead to Elijah, "that maybe I can share him without losing him." Benjamin's eyes softened. "You don't have to lose him. He's yours always, but now he has a little more love in his life, and that's a good thing." Mariah nodded slowly, a small, genuine smile breaking through. She felt the weight of worry lift, replaced by something new, a quiet, steady confidence that her child's heart was safe, full, and loved in more ways than she had imagined. That evening they all sat together, Elijah laughing as Benjamin tickled him gently. Mariah watched, feeling a mixture of awe and relief. She realized she had grown too. She had learned that love could be shared, that fear didn't have to dominate, and that the world could be a little brighter when hearts were open. "Benjamin," she said softly, "thank you for everything, for helping him and for helping me see that it's okay." Benjamin smiled, reaching out to gently squeeze her hand. "Always, Mariah, always." Elijah clapped his hands excitedly, squealing, and Mariah laughed, tears streaming down her face. She held both of them close, her heart overflowing. She knew that the journey wasn't over, that challenges would come, but for now, in this perfect moment, everything was as it should be. As the night deepened, Mariah whispered to Elijah, "You'll always have me, baby, but now you have him too, and that's a good thing, isn't it?" The baby cooed softly in reply, pressing his tiny face against hers. Mariah smiled through her tears, feeling the love that filled the room, the love that had grown stronger because it had been shared. Later, as Benjamin left for the evening, Mariah stood at the door, watching him go with a newfound peace. She knew he was no longer a threat, but a part of their lives, a trusted figure who brought joy, laughter, and care to Elijah. Alone in the apartment, Mariah kissed Elijah gently on the forehead. "We did it, baby," she whispered. "We made it work. We found a way to share love without losing it." And for the first time in weeks, she allowed herself to rest, knowing that Elijah's laughter would continue to echo in their home, a reminder of trust, growth, and the bonds that could withstand fear, jealousy, and uncertainty. Mariah smiled as she rocked him to sleep, holding him close. She knew the future would have challenges, but for now, all three of them, Mariah, Elijah, and Benjamin, were a family in their own way, bound by love, respect, and the unshakable trust of a child who had chosen to open his heart. Sometimes love surprises us, challenges us, and teaches us lessons we never expected. But the greatest love is the one we share, fully and without fear. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more amazing stories. Share your thoughts below. Have you ever witnessed a bond that changed your life? Hit that notification bell so you never miss a story that inspires and moves you.